10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Sorry about that. My mic went dead for a second there. Well, it's always good to be back with you, everybody. And this is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. Am I getting a little lag? Okay. Well, we'll try and fix that. As you can see, we are always constantly... Oops. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. You can see me a little better now. As you can tell, we're always constantly doing changes here and trying to fix things for you. And it's sometimes a little bit last minute in some of the changes. Everything's always trying to be readjusted and fixed and tweaked with. So it always takes a little bit of work here, and I appreciate the fact that you're here with us and, you know, bearing with me as I go through these crazy things. But that's only because we appreciate you, each and every one. We thank you for joining us here. And so I'm happy to be here with you, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. I want to go over a bunch of issues that perhaps may not be the most, well, you'll see what I mean. So we'll start. So what are we talking about today? Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going on in the news today. I mean, I think everyone's heard about what's going on with the college admissions, and I think that's pretty well covered right now. The latest news is that many of the colleges are being sued because obviously if people are being denied placement, regular average Americans throughout the country are being denied the ability to have access to many of these colleges, well, because some Hollywood star has their kid who's getting in instead. Whoops. Well, had a freeze frame there for a second. That's a bit upsetting and unsettling. Not sure why that did that. So if they're not able to get in, then obviously that's a problem. That's an issue. People are going to be upset about that. And so we're seeing a lot of lawsuits coming out now, and we're probably going to see a lot more come out as we learn how big this has reached, how many students were being affected. And it's just going to be a mess. But I think the major news media is covering that pretty well. The thing that isn't being covered very well, Beto O'Rourke. And I think this is really funny, in a not funny kind of way. And by the way, just to remind everyone, I am looking at the chat, and I'm seeing, you know, I'm looking for everybody's comments, so I'm always happy to hear that. And I'll just put this in as I go. Oops, I can't type today. Can't type for the life of me. Well. Okay. So, and I'm checking all of, I'm looking on Twitter, I'm looking on Facebook, I'm looking on all the messages that we may have. But I want to talk about Beto O'Rourke, okay? And that's the big news for the day. Beto O'Rourke is running. He's running for Congress. Excuse me. He's running for the 2020 election. Yay! And some people think he could win. As you can see, 538 came out with an announcement. Their article on this about 6 hours ago, talking about how Beto O'Rourke has a realistic chance of being able to win the 2020 election, and that's kind of interesting. Because I don't think he has a chance to win the 2020 election. And there's part of the reason I think you may find in here. I mean, his big claim to fame. He was in Congress, he served 2 terms there, and he's been on Oprah. And his best claim to fame at this moment is that Beto O'Rourke can say, well, I almost beat Ted Cruz. And I kind of find it interesting because it kind of says a lot about this election and the election cycle that we're in. I'm getting some news reports on something I'm going to be speaking about in just a minute. It's crazy. because who is Beto O'Rourke? He's not Hispanic. As much as you may hear his name and say, well, Beto, well, that means he's Hispanic of some descent. No, he's not. He's just a white guy. He just has a nickname that's Hispanic. And yes, he can speak Spanish, which is not, something that's isolated to people who happen to be Hispanic. If anyone can learn Spanish. He lives in Texas. It's not a surprise. His constituents, many of them are Latino, and so they can speak Spanish too. I mean, I speak Russian, but I'm not Russian. The fact that I lived in Moscow for a year and a half, and I had to live there, go to order food, travel, interact with my coworkers. Yeah, I learned Russian. That doesn't make me Russian. In the same way that Beto O'Rourke, whose name is Robert O'Rourke, is not Hispanic. And it's funny because he was running against Ted Cruz, who is a Hispanic. and a lot of the Latino vote went over to Beto. And so because of that, and that's highlighted in the article from 538, they're very much interested, and that's one of the things they're thinking of. He only lost to Ted Cruz by 3%, as they highlight here. He lost to Ted Cruz by 3 percentage points. And his campaign was notable for that. And there was a lot of people who came out, a lot of Latinos that came out, and they voted in the last election. This is his main claim to fame. He got close in an election for a Senate race, and that's it. Now, you're saying to me, Mike, well, there's got to be more to this guy than that. Well, yeah, there's a little bit more to him than that. Beto O'Rourke was in Congress, 2015 to 2018. He put in, at the time, and you can go to congress.gov and you'll be able to see his history. I pointed out the one thing that I thought that was really important. In the entire time that Beto O'Rourke was in Congress, he sponsored 75 bills. Okay, and this is important. He was there from 2018 all the way through up until January 2019. He was a member of Congress representing Texas, and he put in 75 bills. Of those 75, exactly two bills were brought through and were actually passed the House. Exactly one bill that he did actually became a law, actually went to the president, got approved by the Senate, and was passed by the president. And that was in 2015, as I recall. And that bill, 2016, it was December of 2016 that this actually became a law. And you're going to say to me, well, Mike, what was it? It must have been pretty important. He, as it says here, it was H.R. 538 of the 114th Congress, his first term in Congress. And what he passed was to designate the federal building and United States Courthouse located at 511 East San Antonio Avenue in El Paso, Texas, as the, quote, R.E. Thomason Federal Building and United States Courthouse. Okay. So this is how good Beto O'Rourke is. He named a building. Spent 4 years in Congress, 2 terms, and he named a building. That's the guy they want to run for president. That's his big claim to fame. I lost by 3 points, and I named a building. That's not a resume. I don't understand this. And it's not like Democrats don't have people who've accomplished something. And whether I agree with it or not doesn't really matter. We're not talking about the value or the worth of some of the bills that have been passed by some of these politicians that are running for the 2020 race. Beto O'Rourke named a building and lost by 3 points in a Senate race. That's his claim to fame. Are we serious? Is this the best they can offer? Is this the best that they can provide for a candidate and make us believe that he has a real chance? I don't understand this. I mean, 538 is looking at this guy and they're saying, this is a candidate. I don't believe he is. I don't know what kind of qualification that means. I mean, obviously he's old enough. He's been in politics before. But when I was talking about this back on October 4th of 2018, I was going over who do I predict will be some of the people who will be in Congress, okay? And we're talking about Joe Biden, Senator Cory Booker, was talking about Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Senator, Bernie Sanders, even Chuck Schumer and Andrew Cuomo were people who were in that discussion. And you can go back and listen to the entire podcast. But I was going through all these individuals, and here's the thing that I came up with, okay? The reality is, for the Democratic Party, they're going to go out and they're going to pick 3 women. Two of 3 women. That's the reality. Because they're going up against President Trump, and their best choice, I believe, will probably be women going up against him, talking about how evil and how horrible President Trump is for women. And they're going to emphasize that and have 2 women running against him. In addition, and that falls right in line with the gender politics that we see coming out of the Democratic Socialists. And in addition to that is the identity portion of it, where they're going to have different races, which means Kamala Harris is a front runner in this race. And Elizabeth Warren, because she has claimed at some points to be Indian, which is something still floating in the background, even though it's only 1/1024th, she's been living her life off of this lie that she is somehow a Native American Indian. And I think that's something that, because it's been debunked and since it's been out there already, she's going to still go forward with that. She's older, so that gives a lot of moderate Democrats who don't agree with the Democratic Socialist ideology, makes them think that, well, they're a little bit safer with her, as opposed to, say, Kamala Harris, who's more younger, more like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not to that extreme, but closer to it. And so that may give them a little more assurance, seeing at the top of the ticket Elizabeth Warren, and on the bottom of the ticket for that younger generation, a younger, obviously black, mixed race, Kamala Harris, whose father has already rejected her. That's what I see as being the reality of this election right now. Those are the people. And it's possible you may see Kirsten Gillibrand replace Kamala Harris as a VP choice. Because, although Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, has a lot of issues with her, especially the fact that she just lied to all of her constituents in New York State. But look at this. Look at the choices that the Democrats are putting up against President Trump. I mean, let's really think about this for a second. Their choices are, they have women going front and foremost. I mean, Bernie's too old. He's not going to win. And he's not a Democratic Socialist. He's a communist. This is something he's said himself. And he has lots of issues with his thoughts. I think it's been well reported the first time he was running about his views on women and rape. I don't even want to get into that. That's his views. It's already been published. He wrote it. So those are his thoughts. And Joe Biden, too old, and a gaffe machine. The man makes mistakes all the time. There have been a lot of allegations over the years just based on what he says. And he's out. Andrew Cuomo, come on, let's be serious. The man is about as corrupt, or is believed to be massively corrupt, even in New York. Whether he won the governor's seat or not, he is considered problems in New York State. So he's out. Cory Booker is slightly better. I mean, Cory Booker is Mr. He's a self-admitted sexual assault. Me Too takes him out as well. Senator Schumer, not even a blink in an eye. He isn't even trying at this point. although he may have had the name recognition. So that really just leaves a pretty open field of the women who fit the gender and identity politics of the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialists that they are moving towards, as per Tom Perez, the head of the Democratic National Committee, has said he wants to bring the party to Democratic Socialists along with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That tells you just about everything you need to know. And Beto O'Rourke is not a Democratic Socialist as far as I've seen. He has no accomplishments. He's not Hispanic, although he fakes a Hispanic really well. So where do you think, I mean, when you look at it like that, his accomplishments are failure. What else can you think? So that's where I think we are right now. But we're going to take our first break here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the other things that are going on. But obviously I wanted to address the Beto O'Rourke issue. Yeah, Beto O'Rourke, what a guy. But we'll take our first break. It'll be about 4 minutes, and then we'll be back, and we'll go into, well, some other interesting news. Even though I don't think anyone on CNN is actually going to tell you, Beto O'Rourke, 4 years in Congress, he named a building. This makes him worthwhile as a presidential candidate. He named a building. Wow, Democrats, that's not reaching pretty high. But okay, let's get to the break. Hey, folks, we're back. That's right, we're back with the No Soundbites Allowed podcast, and your host here, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, who always appreciates and thanks you for being here with me. You guys are what makes it worthwhile. I thank you for joining us. Now, folks, we got a lot to go into. There is a lot that's happening here. And I want to talk about, by the way, I also want to take a quick note. Since we were talking about some of the candidates out there, and if you ever wonder, by the way, why I always look like my eyes go back and forth, I have a couple of screens in front of me, and plus a whole lot of equipment, so I handle all of that myself. That's why I'm back and forth sometimes. So we wanted to talk about, we were just talking about Beto O'Rourke and his chances to make it to the 2020 race. How likely is he to be president? And quite honestly, given the push by Democrats to be about gender, about identity politics, I just don't see him making it. Not with a resume that has the only thing that he did while in Congress is name a building when he lost by 3% to Ted Cruz in the Senate race. I mean, he got a lot of attention. He's a fake Latino. He's not Latino. He's got nothing that is appealing to the Democratic Socialists. I mean, think about it. He's not a person of color. He's not a woman. He's a white man, which right now is pretty much the worst thing you could be in the Democratic politics, in the Democratic Party, as they move towards socialism. They want people of color. They want women. They want to emphasize the evils of the white race and the benefits of being anything but, and to get more immigrants in. I mean, that's part of the reason why they want open borders, to bring in people from other parts of the world into the United States. This is what their policies are doing. So I just don't see him having a chance. I really don't. But at the same time, I also wanted to talk about something a little bit more local, and then I'll go forward from there. But I'd be remiss to mention some breaking news in my region. In the New York 22nd District, there is a race with a gentleman, George Phillips. Now, I happen to know George. I've known George since 2008, and he has been the first candidate to mention that he is going to be running against Anthony Brindisi for the New York 22nd District. That is a race that for the last 3-4 years, last 2 or 3 elections, on congressional elections, the New York 22nd District has been one of, if not the top 5 races in the entire nation. The entire nation has paid attention to the race in the New York 22nd District. It is the largest concentration of Republicans in New York State. It's either first or second. It's about an advantage of 6 percentage points or 6 points of Republicans versus Democrats, which in New York State, which is bluer than blue, most people would not realize or not notice. And so George Phillips has run. He ran in 2008, 2010. He ran in 2014 in a 3-way battle for the Republican nomination, and he lost in all of those races. This will be his 4th attempt at this, and we'll see if he is able to come forward. But it's going to be a very crowded race. Now, Anthony Brindisi, who I've known for 6 years on and off, we've talked many times. I talked to him on the 2018 election campaign on a regular basis. He has promised to come on to the show at some point and speak with us, and I am looking forward to talking to him. Many questions for him, many. But George is not the only person who will be going up against Representative Brindisi. We have, as far as I am aware, I'm aware of 5 people now. The official launch by Mr. Phillips is the first of 5 people that will be running in the 2020 New York 22nd race. There are 4 more people that I'm aware of. I will mention by name Steve Cornwell, who is the current DA, District Attorney for Broome County, which is in the New York 22nd District. He is setting up his position. He is running for that race too. He's already done a soft launch of that in January. Technically, he's the first person to announce, with Mr. Phillips being the second, but George is officially running. So, and Mr. Cornwell has not made his official announcement yet. He's just said that he's making preparations for a future in politics. He hasn't gotten into detail. But based on my sources and my information, I would say Steve Cornwell's running, George Phillips is running. There are 3 more candidates that are going to be running in this race. One of the things that very few people have noticed or mentioned yet is, will Claudia Tenney, who was in almost dead heat with Anthony Brindisi, a race that went down to 4,000 votes in a recount to be decided. That race, that candidate, Claudia Tenney, may be coming back to New York 22nd. It's not clear whether she is or is not running. So Mr. Phillips is running into a very crowded field of Republicans who are all planning to run against Anthony Brindisi, who himself may face a challenger on the Democratic side. But again, once we get to confirm all of that, we'll go into it in a little more detail. Let me also go into the next thing, though. And we have a little bit of time here. I want to talk about an issue that we've talked about before, and that's the Green New Deal. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the favorite people in the world. I just enjoy that woman. She is so... I don't even know what the word is for her. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as we know, she's running. She wants to, she wants to do a lot of things. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to win at all costs. I mean, that's her claim to fame. That's her thing. She wants to make the entire nation a democratic socialist nation. She wants communism and socialism. That's her thing. I don't agree with it, but that's her thing, and so there she is. And she came out with the Green New Deal, which is Resolution HR 109. And I'll show you that in just a second here, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Now, the Green New Deal has a lot of features in it. Very few of them actually have to do anything with the environment, but there are a lot of deals. It's a lot of issues. But one of the things I wanted to highlight here is one of the selections here is the Green New Deal must be developed through transparent and inclusive consultation, collaboration, and partnership with frontline and vulnerable communities, labor unions, worker cooperatives, civil society groups, academia, and business. This is part of one of the key things that she's saying about the Green New Deal, that the Green New Deal has to go out there, and its purpose is to work with unions and make unions bigger. Okay, it wants minorities, women, Black, Hispanic, all the minorities to join in unions. That's one of its primary goals. And you say, well, Mike, that isn't exactly what she said in that one part of the Green New Deal. It's saying that the frontline and vulnerable communities, those are minorities. That's women, that's Blacks, that's Hispanics, that's all the different categories of people according to the Democratic Socialist viewpoint, the identity politics viewpoint. That's what they're looking at. So, but you're saying, but Mike, that doesn't mean that they're trying to target any specific group there. That has nothing to do with unions. It does when you look at, it goes a little bit further, item J, which says they're looking to strengthening and enforcing labor, workplace health and safety, sanitation. Oh, am I looking at the right one? Yes, J. Okay, that's it. Strengthening and enforcing labor, workplace health and safety, anti-discrimination. Nope, that's not the line I was looking for. Oh, there it is. It's I, excuse me. Strengthening and promoting the right of all workers to organize, unionize, and collectively bargain free of coercion, intimidation, and harassment. Okay, let's take these two things together. So the Green New Deal must develop through transparent, inclusive consultation, collaboration, and partnership with frontline, let's read, Black, women, Hispanic communities, and labor unions, and worker cooperatives, which are basically more socialist groups, civil society groups. Well, according to Democrats, civil society groups like Citizen Action, Black Lives Matter, Political Leaders of Tomorrow, which goes by the name of Plot, and Antifa, that's what they call civil society groups. In other words, the far left. And business. Well, they don't really care about business. When was the last time you heard a Democrat pro-business? They're looking to strengthen the right of workers to organize and unionize and collective bargain. They're looking for unions. Now, why is that important? The Green New Deal wants more unions. It wants you in a union, especially if you're a person of color, especially if you're a woman. They want you in a union. Whether you want to be in a union or not doesn't really matter. They want you in a union. Well, what do the unions think about that? And actually, we found out. And it's funny enough, this hasn't been major news across the news media. The news media really haven't talked about this because the unions made an answer on March 8th. And we're just learning about that. We are just learning about the fact that the unions had provided an answer to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal and what they thought about it. And let's actually go into what that actually is.
Newsflash. Newsflash.
All right, what did the unions say? The unions said no, they don't want the Green New Deal. They don't agree with her. They think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is out of her mind. They say that this is a bad deal, and they do not support the Green New Deal. And we got to learn about this, not because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who got this, or Senator Markey, who received the letter addressed to them, not because they told us about it, because Senator John Barrasso actually put it out and made a copy of it from the United Mine Workers of America, the UMWA, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the IBEW, the United Association, United Steel Workers, the Utility Workers Union of America, basically all the unions out there, all the major Democratic donors out there, sent in basically the AFL-CIO for America's unions, came out and sent the letter to Edward Markey, Senator Edward Markey, and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and told them on March 8th, and I am going to quote here, quote, "We will not accept proposals that could cause immediate harm to millions of our members and their families. We will not stand by and allow threats to our members' jobs and their families' standard of living go unanswered. We are ready to discuss the issues in a responsible way, for we all recognize that doing nothing is not an option. We want to engage on climate issues in a manner that does not impinge on enacting other labor priorities, especially much needed infrastructure and legislation." Okay, remember, the Green New Deal, okay, this is the bill 109, HR 109. And I want people to see it. This is HRES 109. You can go to congress.gov. You'll see the bill, just like I'm showing it to you right now. It is focused on creating unions. What that has to do with the Green New Deal, we don't know. Is it going to? How does that affect climate change? No idea whatsoever. How does that lower carbon emissions? No idea whatsoever. I don't see how you get from one to the other. But we can say that the unions who do favor nuclear as one of the other choices, what we can say is that unions who are supposed to be supported by HR 109 or the Green New Deal are rejecting it. And they are the biggest donors to the Democratic Party. They are the ones who are the big support for Democrats. This is why Democrats always go with whatever unions want. That's where their money is coming from. That they are forcing members of the unions to donate their funds to go to Democrats, and Democrats, as a response, do what unions want. And, you know, we look at this, and they're telling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you're out of your mind. They're saying that this Green New Deal is going to hurt millions of people. This is something that Republicans have been saying since day one. This is something that people, libertarians, conservatives, independent people, have looked at this and said, this is a pipe dream. It is horrible. What do you mean we have to get rid of planes? What do you mean you have to get rid of 260 million cars? What do you mean we have to fix and refurbish or rebuild 76 million homes? Are you out of your mind? But this is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Democratic Socialists believe. So you have to say to yourself, the unions are saying no. The unions, even though the unions will benefit, this is what the unions, she's built this deal to help unions. And the unions are saying, you're out of your mind. That has to say a lot. That's got to make you wonder, if the unions are saying that they don't like this, you got to wonder, what does that mean for everyone else? If it's too bad a deal for unions, if the deal is bad for unions, how good is it for anyone else? I mean, that's a legitimate question, and it should be asked. It really should be asked. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back, and we're going to go to our friends Adam Ate the Apple. You were just listening to their song before. We're going to listen to another song of theirs. By the way, if you're an independent small band out there, you want to get some of your music out, I like to feature music and bands. Obviously, donations make a big difference because it helps keeps the lights on, keeps the bills paid to present all this for you guys. So I always want to try and keep commercials off. So if you can donate $1, that's always helpful. And this way I can promote different bands from across the country in the commercial breaks, because I'd rather put a musical break in than a commercial break, but whichever, we'll go with that. Okay. But here comes Adam Ate the Apple again, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Wanna get you home, wanna get it inside of my bed, and I say my baby in your pencil. Never been that guy, that girl with this man that got so bad, and I thought never put your hands to that.
Excuse me. I hate when I do that. Knocked out the mic for out. I had it muted for the break. And the reason why is, of course, I muted. I'm actually in conversations with a couple of individuals down in D.C. We're talking about a couple of things that may be coming up in the near future. Trying to work on getting a couple of people interviewed for you, and they're contacting me live while the show's on, of course. But, you got to go with the breaking news as the news comes out. And obviously, there's a lot of news out there. President Trump has already talked about Beto O'Rourke, and he doesn't consider him a very strong challenger. I don't believe it is either. I don't think any of the Democrats have had a strong challenge yet. But one of the things that could have a big impact is obviously looking at the Mueller report. The Mueller report is going to be a big deal, and it's going to have a big impact on the election going forward. And obviously, we've already heard from Nancy Pelosi telling us that she's not looking to go forward with any kind of impeachment procedures. Well, obviously, so far we have seen no collusion and no proof or even hints or leaks of collusion. There is no evidence that President Trump has done anything that the Democrats have declared or accused him of. What we have seen is that there's been lots of evidence of where the Democrats have done things that have broken the law. And I mean, we've seen that consistently. We saw that the DNC rigged the election against Bernie Sanders. We know that for a fact. That's not even a question. We know for a fact that they leaked, members of the Democratic National Committee leaked information, questions during the debates to the Hillary Clinton team. We know that Hillary Clinton's she's got massive issues all over the place. And we know that this is all coming out of the Democratic Party. We know that the Democratic Party under Hillary Clinton has been the main source actually trying to push collusion and try and put this message out there against President Trump, or even candidate Trump, on fake evidence. These are all things that have been known, that they are facts. But kind of like the letter from the unions to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that they have no support for the Green New Deal, you have to wonder, why is the news media so selective in the things that they're talking about, in the things that they're willing to promote? They're promoting these Democrats, many Democrats, that are running for 2020 and other races as well, as if they are perfect or that they're great candidates, ignoring some of the major issues that each of them have. And I have to wonder, how can you do that? How can you have such an emphasis and yet still not pay attention to the details? I mean, I think it's a big deal that Beto O'Rourke put in 75 bills in 4 years, which is not bad, that he tried to sponsor for Congress, and one got passed. And that was naming a building. I mean, he's almost as good as Hillary Clinton, who was in the Senate. She was there for 8 years, and she named 2 buildings, a park and a highway. I mean, wow, what a record. What a record there. That's just miserable. That's miserable. That's not a qualification. I wouldn't consider that a qualification for re-election in Congress, or let alone running for the Senate, let alone running for the presidency. I mean, what is that? That's not success. That's not even support from other members. It's useless. And to hear the New York 22nd race is obviously already, I mean, we're already hearing about the 2020 race on the congressional side. Obviously, we have a couple of candidates. So there's the New York 22nd, which is one of the top 10 in the nation. It looks to be another top 10 for the nation, I predict, because we're probably going to have 3 to 5 candidates on the Republican side alone, 1 to 2 candidates on the Democrat side. So that, if that prediction, and it looks pretty steady right now, if I'm correct on that, that's going to be a top line race, which is going to affect money going to the various presidential candidates, both for Republicans and for Democrats and other parties as well. And then we've got the Alexandria Ocasio race, the New York 14th race. That's going to be a top national issue. everyone's going to be paying attention to that race, especially on how much money is going to be raised for it, who is going to be raising the money, and exactly who's going to be challenging her. It's going to be a big deal. And if we're correct in looking at what the unions have said already, that they don't support the Green New Deal, this puts a big blockade in front of that democratic socialist movement, when the unions that the democratic socialists need and they support and are working with. I mean, you don't have socialism and communism without that universal collaboration of work, that unionized kind of labor force. Not that unions are socialist, but that it's that same kind of structure. And if you don't have those, you're not going to get a socialist environment. And therefore, Ocasio may be losing the support of unions, which would definitely affect her ability to be able to go forward and have a re-election campaign that would be fully funded. That's on top of all of her other issues for her campaign, $1 million that potentially has been misused, and she may even go to jail for that. So that's a big question that's out there. But in the last 2 minutes of the show right now, and I hope you have enjoyed the show, I hope we've covered a couple of different issues here. And each episode we're trying to do a lot. And we'll be having next week and going forward, I expect to have several interviews going on. And we'll have interviews with candidates. We'll have from across the nation, as well as the New York 22nd District. But we're going to have a lot of people we're going to be talking about here in New York, as well as the rest of the nation. There's a lot of issues that we have to address, and we're not always going to hit that headline news, because just like with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the unions, the story that's not getting all the attention might be the story that's the most important. And that's what we try to look for. And that's why we try to give you the links so you can look up these stories yourself and see in depth. And whether you agree with me or not, that's okay. You don't have to. But at least you understand where I'm coming from, why I think these things are happening the way they do. And I always look for your input. Give us your feedback. Do you like the new background? Do you like the way it looks? We're trying a couple of new things. Obviously, here on the TECN network, we're trying to make it a little bit more interesting and exciting for you. So let us get your feedback on that. We're always interested, and we always want to talk to you more. Now, we are going to be here on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, on Thursdays at 1 o'clock, on Saturday, 12 noon to 2 p.m. We advise you, if you're going to look at if you're not seeing the show live, you can always go to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see it there. You can listen to it. We also put it out as a podcast format, so it's audio only, and that's at thevospolitical.podbean.com. So you can go there and you'll be able to hear it. So while you're driving to and from work, or just driving around or walking around, you can listen to the program and hear everything that's been said on the show. And on YouTube, you can go to the MV Consulting Inc., INC, and that'll bring you to all of our hundreds. We have, I think, 400 videos on there, including podcasts and interviews and news events that we cover, like CPAC this year and other events. So we try to reach out to you in every format that's possible. And you can always go to our hub, which is the mvass.com. That's our home. Just passed up for me. You can go there. That's our home site that'll allow you to see everything all at once. So I hope that you're enjoying that. We're always looking forward to your insight, your thoughts, your comments, because you make the difference, always. And we do understand and appreciate that. So with that all said, I've still got about 4 minutes here. I thought I had it timed perfect for the end of the show, but we wound up with a little extra time. Let me ask you, who do you think will be the nominee for the Democratic Party for president? Do you think that it will be a Democratic socialist? Do you think the Democratic Party is becoming more socialist? Something that I asked people on Twitter recently, a very important question. Does someone's gender or their skin color mandate a vote. Just because, is there something inherently important about a candidate because of their skin color or their gender? So is a woman candidate better than a man just because she's a woman? Do you believe that? Do you believe that a candidate who's black or Hispanic or has a name that's black or Hispanic, like Beto, does that make a difference to you? Is that mean something separate of whether they have any intrinsic, any qualification of their own, life experience or anything else, separate of all that, does that make a difference to you? I know it makes a difference to the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialists. We know that it makes a difference to political leaders of tomorrow. Even in my local area, we know that the political leaders of tomorrow, they have an entire slate of candidates that are nothing but black women. Well, not entirely. They're women of color. They have an entire slate of women of color. None of them have ever been in politics. None of them have been involved in any of the local issues. They haven't spoken anywhere. They have not spoken up about anything. But because they are women of color, they're all running for election under the progressive banner of the political progressive leaders of tomorrow. They're under the social justice banner. And does that make them good candidates? Better candidates than others? I don't know. What do you think? I want to hear what your thoughts are on that. I'll probably put up a poll on that on either Twitter, or you can go to our Facebook page under the Voss Political, and you'll be able to see it there. And tell me what you think. And we look forward to, obviously, always being with you on the next show. Looking for you to be here on Saturday. We always like to try and reach out to as many people as possible. That will be a 2-hour program, and we're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of conversations about all the issues that are affecting everyone all week and going long term, and what's going to shake up in a bunch of the 2020 elections. But don't forget, folks, the 2019 elections still have to happen. This is an off year, but there's elections locally, and they're important. And no matter what you believe, no matter who you choose, please go out and vote. Whether it's for a Democrat, a conservative, a libertarian, a Republican, your voice matters, and your voice is your vote. Please vote every election, whether it's local or state or national. It makes a difference. You make the difference. And with that said, I want to thank everyone for being here with us on this program. I appreciate and I thank each and every one of you guys. You are fantastic. You make it worthwhile. That's why I do this week after week. And I hope to see you on Saturday. And until then, I want to wish everyone well, and I'll talk to you soon.